Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Good Guys Sports. Joined by myself, your host today, Blake Gerke, and our usual cast of Jackson, Mike Roby, and Blake Limberger. And as we jump here into August on Good Guys Sports, we got a couple of fun topics to discuss as we progress closer and closer to the fall. Not quite ready for football, but we are going to be doing a little bit of a college football preview, some news and notes a bit later in this show, but we're going to start with Major League Baseball, and in particular, a certain game that took place this previous weekend. Supposed to take place on Saturday night, ended up being rain delayed to Sunday afternoon, and that's the MLB Speedway Series between the Cincinnati Reds and the Atlanta Braves taking place at Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee, one of the historic tracks in NASCAR. But don't be mistaken, there was no NASCAR event going on there that weekend. There was a Major League Baseball game, balls and strikes, going on there this past weekend. It was rain delayed. They finished the game on Sunday. I think it ended up being kind of nice doing the afternoon game as well. I know the fans on Saturday night were probably a bit bummed out, but I think it ended up being a nice spectacle on Sunday as well. And one of those, I guess, what do you call it, special events that MLB has been putting on. We've seen the Field of Dreams game, for example. We've seen them play a couple games internationally. So it's, to use baseball analogy, they're taking some big swings in terms of putting MLB games in different locations. We've seen other sports do this, right? Where we've seen NFL games in, Brazil last year, for example. Obviously, they play games in London. We've seen NBA games take place in different locations. I think it is cool that MLB can kind of leverage a lot of their history to do playing baseball games in unique stadiums, unique situations. And so I think this was a good example of that. Jackson, I know you had your eye on the game for most of last weekend. What were your thoughts? Do you think the MLB Speedway Series was a success?
I think it was Blake, and what stood out to me by it is that it was the first game being played in the state of Tennessee, meaning that after the game was played, it was donated. I've seen this article on the news this past week that it was last week that it was donated to the East Tennessee, the students at East Tennessee um, University for their school district out there, which I thought was very cool and unique. And the other thing that I want to point out from this game is you forgot to mention about the Rickwood Field series out there in Alabama and Birmingham, which was also one of the events that you forgot to mention. And of course, if you feel the day will come series out there in Iowa, which was also one of those venues. And not sure if MLB is going to be returning to for any announcements that they're ever going to be returning to any special event for a place like that for what Mount Redford has in store. But if there would, it would be very special. But this was a once in a lifetime opportunity for a fan to experience something like this and having to deal with it as a fan, as a player, and something you don't get to see every day. And it was very special. And a few things that I do want to point out in this game that is that I was watching the broadcast on Sunday while Uncle Mike was at the game with Aunt Lori and at the Nationals game while I was watching it on the broadcast, and they were talking about the Braves pitcher Henderson Waltrip, who was called up from AAA Gwinnett County, Georgia, and he drove himself 620 miles from the AAA affiliate all the way to Bristol, if you can believe it. So that's really what really struck me and stood out from this game. What's what struck me out is you talk about speedway, talking about NASCAR. Well, Ellie De La Cruz was one of those players, and he can like steal base after base and
Speedster.
going yeah there yeah he can like steal bases from any no matter which direction or angle he's at. And also what stood out in this game is that remember this name. E.Y. White scored 2 home runs, and he won the most valuable player in this game. And they give away this trophy like they do in NASCAR, like to do in every NASCAR event that Major League Baseball had created. And so I thought that was cool. And so to me, and and so to me, what struck to me out is this is that the Rays getting the 2 for runs by E.Y. White, which if you've never heard of him, he's one of their best young upcoming stars for the Braves. So he scored a home run. So he scored a home run. So in the seventh and the top at the top of the seventh and the top of the second, and he does it all. And once he scored the home run, it's funny because the fans can't even get the ball because the gates and the nets were like and those gates surrounded by the track were just like hanging down, and they couldn't like get the ball to fans, and so the people who were trying to catch foul balls were trying to get it to fans, and it didn't go so well, and so really, anytime a player hits a home run, something that you don't get to see every day at a major league um, ballpark, or if you're ever attending a major league baseball game, is that for anyone who missed it, is that anyone who hits a home run in the MLB Speedway Series is that the home run car takes a lap around the track, and that's something that I find very cool. And to me, my big takeaway is that the Speedway Series out there in Bristol Motor Speedway was something that can always put on a show. I mean, uh, about a few years ago, they they put on the show out there before, and the last time they did something like that was you have to go back to, I believe it was 2017, where you had Tennessee and Virginia Tech played a college football game there, and that was the last neutral event site that was played at Bristol Motor Speedway. And you think about it, Bristol Motor Speedway, obviously Uncle Mike was in the state of Virginia, of course, but it's bordered by both Tennessee on a geographical standpoint. That's both bordered by Virginia and Tennessee, and Bristol is one of those towns where it's basically pretty much in the middle of nowhere. Meaning that you don't have a lot of hotels to choose from, and all you have to fly into for people that have to like travel or have to get there is probably by a regional airport somewhere in Bristol, maybe in Roanoke, Virginia, would be my best guess. But that's really how people get there, even though it's kind of in this hidden spot of the state that like borders from one town to another in Bristol and each state. So and so that was my biggest reaction to it, and how I think of how this all went down for this event. So really, Bristol Motor Speedway, they 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 did it again. They even did like change the tires at like the day this was happening before the rain delay, where Mother Nature obviously has no control over it. But what they did is that they did the team introductions, and they rotated tires on the cars, which I thought was pretty cool. And so with team during the team introductions, and they did like a pregame show with with um with Pimple and the other and Kenny Chasing, I believe it was, and a country musician, and I thought, and they put on a great show for the pregame festivities, and I thought it was very cool. And yeah, I think MLB has done it again. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like this for many years to come. And yeah, that was certainly something that fans and players will certainly never remember and never forget for many years to come for what they were able to be part of, and how, especially with E.Y. White, who will be by far will be remembering this moment for many years to come, that we will all remember as fans and players. And I think that would be something that he would enjoy. But yes, it was definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I do think Bristol Motor Speedway said it all. And I think that MLB, and overall, I think MLB did a great job for what they've accomplished for putting the site for what they did for the sport and for the teams for what they did overall.
For sure. Mike, what'd you make of the Speedway series
Well,
or game?
it looked like a lot of fun. I was watching the videos of coming down to see the actual field right in the middle. So,
Mm.
with 85,000 tickets sold for the game, uh, was certainly a big boost for the MLB. I think if the concessions had not run out of food, it would have been a little bit better for people who attended the game.
They ran out of chicken fingers.
Yeah. I was watching the pregame show of that part, and they were just showing that people out in the bars drinking, just kind of just
Yeah,
running out and just knowing how's the party out there, and that's just that kind of feel that you get for you, Mike.
yeah. A little history about Bristol. Back in the early days of country music, Bristol was the capital of country music before it moved to Nashville.
Wow. And also,
So,
fun fact about Bristol, Mike, is that you got a bunch of mountains surrounding by it with a great view. And yeah, I had no idea about Bristol being the hometown of country music, other than Music City, of course. Which,
yeah,
wow, I guess I'm learning something every day, and I didn't know about that. But I guess it's true. Having watched a feature on it on the pregame show, but yeah, I kind of forgot about it. But I guess I know already.
yeah. And again, a big shout out to Eli White. You got to think that the Braves still have a good farm system. If they hadn't had as many injuries as they've had this year, Eli White might not have come up as soon as he did.
True. Yeah, silver
Very
lining
true.
there.
Very true.
Absolutely. So what did you make, Mike, of like the concept of having a baseball game in a NASCAR stadium? Do you think like these one-off games, like Jackson mentioned, the game
Hmm.
in Alabama at the stadium and the Field of Dreams game, stuff like that, like do you like the concept? Do you think there's room to grow in the future there?
Yeah, I do like the concept. I was skeptic at first about putting a baseball diamond in the middle of a speedway, but after I saw the drones fly by in the videos, it looked really cool. Uh, and I think it's good for baseball. If it gets more people interested in the game, then it's a good thing.
For sure.
Uh, I always loved the Field of Dreams. I mean, how could you not? You know, uh, any true baseball fan or anybody who's ever had a catch with their father,
Right.
Mm,
the
mm.
Field of Dreams, you can't beat it. But yeah, I mean, anything that gets more people interested in baseball, I'm all for.
No, I agree. I agree. And I think there's so many baseball games currently that I think some experimentation with having games in different locations, different venues, etc., is a positive for sure. Uh, Blake Lamberg, I'll jump to you. I don't know if you caught any of the game, but obviously you grew up in NASCAR country. Having a baseball game in a NASCAR stock car racing venue, were you a fan of that concept?
I loved it. The only problem I had was so I watched the night that was supposed to be played. Delay, came on the field like Jackson said, had an awesome like pit. They did the pit crew, and they came out beside the cars. They showed the speedway. And I'll tell you what's crazy. Call me crazy. I think Mike would have liked this, but I almost liked the night they delayed the game over and over better because the commentary they had to talk about baseball and history and memories. You had the two Yankees talking about baseball, their favorite moments. And I almost thought that was just as cool as I guess the game actually was played the next day. Is that right?
Yeah, Sunday
Yes.
afternoon.
Yeah, but I mean, for like what was it, like 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, they just went on and on. And I'm thinking, after like 30 minutes, the content they prepared is probably done. So you got 4.5 hours of scrambling off the cuff content, but that's what I think is good. That's what I want to hear. These guys just talk about the good old days.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was an interesting situation given, I mean, it was pretty much a downpour. They tried to play, I guess they ended up playing one inning on Saturday night, and it was it was absolute mud fest out there in the fields. I
How
don't
many
know.
fans ended up coming back the next day?
It seemed like it was pretty well attended the next day. I guess the accommodation offerings in Bristol, Tennessee are only so much. So like people were probably
Yeah,
there for the weekend kind of thing. And so I think they ended up salvaging it. But yeah, that was an interesting situation with a bit of a mud bowl there on Saturday
yeah.
night, wasn't it?
Mm.
Hey
Yeah.
Jackson, I got an idea.
Yeah.
You know what, you really want to spice things up? Why don't you be the first sport to have two competitions going at once. Put some cars on the track, baby. Let them race while the baseball game's going
Yeah,
on.
No, I agree
I'm
with
all
that.
for it.
I agree with that because the track was not interfering with the field. So I actually think that that's a good shout. Like I think having cars go by as you're playing and then you can like do a classic home run ball,
Yeah,
try to hit
yeah,
one of the cars. I love that,
yeah.
man.
It's part of it, man. Foul ball goes in the
Absolutely.
car. Yeah, yeah. You
Mike
can't
shaking
hear
his head.
anything, so it's all signals. They're great. Apparently, baseball's great at signals, Mike. I don't know. Tell me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Apparently, they're great at signals. Certain
And
teams.
beating on trash cans.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Oh, we've heard that before.
But yeah, no, overall I think Speedway Classic I think was a success despite the delay with the weather. So
Speaking of
um
baseball, before we move off
yeah.
baseball, is I guess I just saw the Little League World Series is current just ramps up, but the states
Yeah,
are
it's
playing each other.
going on right now, I think. Yeah.
Regional finals are happening right now. The actual tournament doesn't start till I say next week.
Next weekend.
Jackson, did I
Yeah.
see South Kakalaka in there playing the other day? Did they win? They pull a win off?
No, I don't I didn't catch any of the highlights of it, so I don't know.
Okay.
I know this time of year Little League World Series is always a nice little baseball filler going on there,
Yeah.
but
Now, what two teams are playing? Because they always MLB always has a major league game
oh yeah,
up
that's
at
right. Speaking of
Williamsport.
yeah,
That's right.
speaking of like the one-off sort of different venues and locations. They usually do a Little League Classic, don't they? I think they've been doing
They
that
do.
for a couple of years now, haven't they?
Quite a while, yeah.
I think it's okay. Yeah, it's taking place on the 17th
Okay.
between the Seattle Mariners and the New York Mets.
Okay.
So keep an eye out for that one. Little League Classic taking place in Williamsport.
What does that
Um,
mean? What exactly?
So they play essentially two major league teams play a game in Williamsport, which is the location of the Little League World Series. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm assuming it's
Yeah.
a bigger field. I don't
Yeah,
know
it's
the
a bigger
exact.
field. It's for
Right.
you know, kids who play like in the Babe Ruth League. Uh, so there's 90 feet. The base paths are 90 feet as opposed to 60 feet with the Little League. And they invite all the Little League players in their family to join in,
Yeah.
and the
Mm,
fans.
mm.
And then they take pictures of the major league ball players sliding down the hill.
oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Oh
That's cool.
wow, wow.
It's
Well, that would be something Uncle Mike's grandkids can do and put on their bucket list one of those years, and make a full trip for the whole family to do one of these days. I think
Yeah,
that for whatever everything that you just said, Mike, I think that would be something you should mark and put down on the bucket list and try to make it happen.
yeah. No, it's on, huh? Put it on. So before we leave baseball, there's a milestone for MLB and coming in at Atlanta this weekend. The
Mm,
Marlins and the Braves, the first female Major League Baseball umpire
that's right. Yeah.
is coming
yeah.
up. Jen Powell, who has been a AAA umpire. She's been umpiring since 2016. She played softball at Hofstra University, was named a all conference in college days in the old the Colonial Athletic Association. But kudos to her to make it out of AAA and become the first female umpire in the majors.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Yeah. It's
But
good
what
that.
what bad timing though, right? This is terrible timing with the getting rid of the home plate umpire push right now.
Now, I think they'll still have umpires, and they're going to implement the challenge system next year.
Yeah,
So I think they'll still have umpires, but they're implementing a system where you can challenge the call of an umpire. But I think honestly, something like this is a good way of changing the demographics of a traditional umpire. Usually you imagine an umpire being sort of like an old grizzly veteran guy, like an older man who's calling a ball here and a strike there, not the most reliable. I think kind of getting in that younger generation of umpiring is going to benefit and as well adapting to technology, challenge systems, reviews, and stuff like that, which we saw in the All-Star
Mhm.
game this year is a positive. So, yeah, I think kind of adding that technology, updating the demographics of who's umpiring the games is only going to benefit MLB in the long run.
Well, I agree. I'm looking forward to the ABS and
I think,
seeing how that works out. I do like the fact that there's only three people on the field that can actually call for a review.
yeah, I think you have to find the middle ground between implementing technology and not waiting around too long for a
Yeah,
review. So I think,
yeah.
you don't want to like hold the game up by
Mm-mm.
analyzing every single minute detail, but having that little bit of
Yeah.
extra help is can't hurt, right?
No, leaving up just for, the pitcher, the catcher, and the batter, the only ones
Mm.
that can challenge a call. And each team only is allowed two challenges per game.
Mm.
So I don't think it's going to slow the game down.
And then and then so if you're so example of one would be, so say if your home team, say if you're a fan of a home team and you have and you're trying to get the bases loaded, but the opposing team is trying to overturn and get it out on you, then then if the play is upheld for the umpire, then that's going to make the crowd not so happy and angry every time a play gets called and right, because that's part of the game, and that's really a perfect example of one. But if a play but if a play like it is stand, then the crowd would be a lot happier and they would cheer a lot. So examples like that is part of the game of how an umpire's job it works, and that's really
Yeah.
with ABS really just shows you of a perfect few examples of how it's all done and how it usually plays out for most part of the game of baseball.
Yeah, I think for the most part, you'll see the challenges on strike threes and whether or not the pitch made it into the zone or not. And
Right,
then with each, all the major league stadiums have a big jumbotron. The crowd will be able to see the
right,
replay on
right,
the jumbotron.
right,
And so a
Yeah,
real fan of the game, even if if the call goes against your team, I mean they'll see the evidence and they'll know
right,
that the
right,
call either needed to be overturned or not.
right, right. That's right, and that's really part of it too. So whenever you see your face, or you see your fan's face, or someone who's trying to react, and whether if they're cheering or they're not happy about it, and they're like so against it, and they just try to say bad things about this play. You get your action to it. That's really what this is for the for for how the sport of baseball runs and how it usually plays out. And I do get your point with how it all works, Mike.
Hmm.
for sure, yeah. And I guess while we're talking MLB, we should do a little update on some of the news and notes standings, playoff picture. We're not too far away from postseason baseball, are we? We're getting into the home
No.
stretch of the season here, aren't we? So, um, I think interestingly, I think a big talking point of the trade deadline was the Yankees, and obviously they're always kind of a talking point, given the notoriety of the team. But they've been on a bit of a slide recently, haven't they? They kind of
Mm-hmm.
stopped the slide with a win today against Texas, but fans up in the Bronx have not been particularly happy with the performance of the Bronx Bombers recently, and
No, they haven't. No, they haven't.
they find themselves in third place right now, and they're actually out of the playoffs as it currently stands, a game behind Seattle. As we know, Seattle as well made some moves at the trade deadline to solidify themselves in the American League playoff picture. So definitely a bit up in the air in terms of that American League playoffs. We know Detroit's going to win that American Central crown. Houston's probably going to win the AL West. Again, can't rule Seattle out. They made some big moves, bringing back Suarez, and they're on a bit of a good run of form as well themselves. I mean, they're playing the White Sox, so that certainly helps, doesn't it? But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, the American
Yeah.
League. picture is a bit open right now, Mike, would you say?
Yeah, I would. And the Astros brought back Carrera.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think ultimately they will win the AL West. I think they've done
Hmm.
enough at the deadline to kind of solidify themselves.
Yeah.
Um, but Seattle's not going away anytime soon, though, as well. That's what I would say.
No, and
No.
Seattle's a good team. Even if they just, even if they make the a wild card, I think they're going to go at least to the division series. It's good. They've got the bats and they also have the arms. So I think they're going to be surprised. The Blue Jays would be another team that might surprise people.
Mm.
Uh, and uh, they picked up Bieber from the Cleveland. Of course, Bieber hasn't played yet, but coming from off of Tommy John. But from what I've heard, he's had a couple good rehab starts, so he should be starting fairly soon. Uh, and that would only help the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think maybe not
Right.
enough has been made about Toronto. Boston and New York kind of take up a lot of the media interest from that American League East. But you got to give credit to Toronto, and they've been pretty consistent most of the year, right, Jack?
That's right. That's right. And the Blue Jays are playing. They're playing red hot baseball at the right time because they've acquired a lot of players from the trade deadline and they seem to push all the right buttons. And I think the Blue Jays are a team you probably wouldn't want to play against. But one of those teams are the Detroit Tigers too. So they're also a team to keep an eye on too. With former Houston Astros manager AJ Finch is always pushing the right buttons. So I do think that will be very fascinating to watch to see how this all unfolds in the MLB postseason. But no, but you're right, Blake. The Blue Jays are going to be a tough team to beat um, in the AL come the postseason in October.
No, 100%, 100%. And we've seen these teams make. I mean, dare I say, could this finally be the year if the Yankees miss the playoffs that they decide to kind of clean house in terms of maybe change manager, possibly change GM? I mean, we've kind of seen, I'm not a Yankee fan per se. Like we have some connection with the Yankees, so I'm not like a Yankee hater or anything like that. But it does seem like they've been pushing out a similar team, a similar manager and front office for a while. So if they end up missing the playoffs this year, which they're currently on the outside looking in, that could be the catalyst for a big change in the Bronx. So they're definitely a team to keep an eye on to even
Yeah,
miss out on the postseason.
yeah. There's going to be a lot of frustration and so many and things are going to be so heating up, fired up questions in the New York media. People are just going to be
Yeah, what's
going
going
off,
on here?
going on here, and pretty much everybody in
Bring
pretty
back
much
Derek
every.
Jeter,
But yeah, why don't you bring back Derek Jeter and all the old baseball fellas?
Rivera.
Yeah, bring back those baseball guys there, will ya? Because pretty much everybody in the media in New York, which everybody cares about up there in that part of the country, with all the radio shows up there and talk shows up there, that they that really think that really they're going to be all fed up and fired up, and they're going to be really going off on so many questions after this season. If they're if they are going to be if they're going to miss the playoffs, and then yeah, that's going to be a very long off season for the fans up in the Bronx and for anyone that's listening in the tri-state area.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in terms of the National League as well, we should say there's been some movement in terms of the National League East and National League West. Big series coming up for the Mets and Phillies play each other, I think, a bit later this month. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on in terms of that head-to-head battle. But as well, the Mets have um, two series against the Braves, home and away, before that as well in August. So the Braves season is pretty much over. But if they're able to kind of put a bit of a damper on the Mets season, that's always a bit of motivation from Atlanta. Speaking from personal experience there as well. So National League East far from over in terms of playoff outlook for sure. And Uncle Mike's Nats have a big part to play as well in that series in that division. They have quite a few games coming up against their divisional opponents. So, you still leaning Phillies for that NL East crown, Mike, as we sit here today?
Yeah, I do. Uh, Look at Schwab. I think he
Mm,
hit his 40th home run of the season the other day.
mm.
He's also leads so he's second in the majors in home runs, but he also leads the majors in RBIs, and he's their leadoff guy. How does a leadoff guy lead the league in RBIs?
I guess if you put your best
Great
hitter
question.
number one, it tends
I
to
mean,
happen, right?
that just means that the bottom of your lineup's got to be getting on base.
True.
So,
True. Yeah.
and Nola, Nola will be back. They miss his arm. Uh, Braun will be back. So, yeah, I being a Nationals fan, uh, but yeah, I hate to say it, but I think the Phillies are going to take the NL East.
Mm.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you on that. Yeah, I think they've certainly got a talented roster, top to bottom.
Yeah, but the hottest team is uh
The
is
Milwaukee Brew
Milwaukee
Crew.
Brewers.
The
nine
Brew
and
Crew. That's
nine
right,
and one in the
Mike.
last 10.
Yeah, they're 14-4 since the All-Star break. They're the best team
Wow.
since the All-Star break. They are now ranked number one this week for the first time.
Ranked number one in the MLB power rankings, like Uncle Mike said.
Hmm
So yes, lots to be
When
excited
is
about.
Phillies are number two.
Right.
I don't know, when is the national media going to start giving the Milwaukee Brewers some respect? That's my
Uh,
question.
well, I don't see it happening.
They're under the radar.
They'll be under the radar. I mean, look, you got the
Fun.
Met,
They're
you
gonna be
got
a
the
fun team to
Mets and
watch.
you got the Mets and the Phillies, and oh yeah, by the way, you got the Dodgers
Don't forget about them.
and the National League. That's going to get all the press. They're the ones that are going to get all the press, you
Right.
know, and you know, rightly so, I guess. I mean, they deserve to have a lot of press, but I also think that teams like the Brewers equally deserve some of the press, and the Cubbies are coming on strong as well. Uh, but I, I like the way the Brewers are playing right now.
Yeah, I mean, best record in MLB, so you can't disagree with that, can you? I guess this is the case of
No.
we've seen it often with particularly with teams in MLB having a the best record, a better record than their opponent in a series, and
Hmm
then ended up getting beat in the postseason. But you can only beat who's in front of you, and the Milwaukee
hmm
Brewers currently, as we stand here, have the most wins in the MLB. So, I mean, what else can we do apart from give them credit for that, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
we
they came in and swept the Nationals just recently, and boy, they did it every way possible. And not only just hitting home runs, but playing small ball and pitching. I mean, they were just, just the better team on the field.
well, they just swept the Braves as well, to be fair. So
Yeah,
they're
Right.
they're they're taking all kinds of scalps here in the National League East, aren't they?
yeah,
So.
yeah,
Yeah, the Brewers can beat you anyways, and they are a perfect example of that for what they
yeah,
do and each of their categories.
yeah. I
That
didn't.
they can do both for for both sides, whether it's hitting or
Yeah,
pitching. Pretty much any category you can think of, they can do it all.
yeah. I didn't want to mention that the Braves are 5-13 since the All-Star break, but
Not great, not ideal.
And that's
not idea,
and part of that is
not
because
idea.
Higher draft pick.
they've been banged up and took too many injuries on their pitching and yeah, it's just it's just not one of those years. It's just not one of those years.
No,
But
it's they lost Every one of their starters is on the IL at the beginning of the season.
Not
The
great.
season started, opening day. Every one of their starters is on the IL.
That's not that's not that.
It's hard to win games.
Yeah, it's not great news if you're for us Braves fans, but yeah, it would be the first time since 2017 that the Braves last missed the postseason, but they could
Yeah,
be on but they could be on cusp to do it again. So
yeah,
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 lots of things to be addressed this offseason, but yeah, not looking good for our
yeah.
Braves.
No, well, you know, at least you're not Orioles fans. I think the
Well,
Orioles have probably had the most disappointing season.
They thought they were good at least.
Yeah,
I would have to take it back on that, Mike, and say the Colorado Rockies have by far the more worst disappointing season than the Baltimore
Yeah, but
Orioles did.
they already knew they kind of knew they were bad.
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they do have a run
From a
differential
fan
of
from a fan expectation
right.
perspective, I think the Orioles are probably the most disappointing team, at least in the American League.
But for the National League, for me, it's the Colorado Rockies
Yeah,
because they didn't really do much. And
Well, I
um,
mean, they have a run differential of negative 316. That's not doing it for you, Jack,
no, it's really not Blake. And they can't really hit or just
or do
can't
anything.
can't
Field,
well, they can't pitch or
catch.
hit or catch or
You can barely
or
stand up.
or or just play any position in baseball for this team, and they just can't do it all. And I think that the
yeah,
Rockies just um, are just telling themselves that they just can't that they're just dead last and pretty much in any category that they're in for their farm system and for their baseball team.
yeah.
It's not great,
Well, the National we're catching up with them. The Nationals are so.
right? At least you can
Anyway,
say that for your most part.
yeah,
Well, I think we should probably move to a different sport now, Jack, and we should touch upon. We still got a little bit of time until college football gets up, back, and running, but I do think we should touch upon just kind of our general feelings about some of these college football teams and kind of the preseason expectations, obviously centered around the SEC and the Big Ten nowadays, and kind of how some of these teams are going in. I think, according to the preseason coaches poll, the current top five would include Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, and Notre Dame. So a lot of the familiar characters that we would expect to see kind of at the top of
yeah,
that college football poll, right? And obviously, we have a couple of matchups featuring these teams early on. So,
yeah. Texas is at Ohio State opening day.
yeah, yeah, one versus two in our
This
coaches
would,
poll, isn't it?
yeah, and this is going to be set up as a potential, and this will mark, and this will actually be the day, and this will mark the last day of Lee Corso on the college football pregame show, College Game Day, which would be very emotional and tears and joy for what this man has brought for the headgear, which all started all at Ohio State back in all first got started in 1996 up to this year, which is hard to believe and crazy that we've been going by after all these years later, but hard to believe that the season and all these years have been flown by so fast, and that's where it all is unfolded for after all these years later. But as for the game, for where they're going to be for the Ohio State Texas game, that's going to be a that's going to be a potential quarterback matchup. But I would have to say I have to give the slight edge to Ohio State because Arch Manning is going to be going to a hostile environment up there in the horseshoe, and Ohio State just has a better defense in that game, and Arch Manning is probably going to be facing pressure against one of those defensive players from the Buckeyes, and that's really how it's all going to go down. Is that Texas is a underdog in this game, and that's why I'm not picking them. So he's going to he's going to be going up against Julian Sain, the most likely QB1 starter for under Ryan Day for the Buckeyes head coach is most likely going to be the starter. But the Julian Sain for one of his receivers is going to one of his playmakers running the ball, pass the ball. He's probably going to do it all, and I think Ohio State's probably going to be the Buckeyes. The Ohio State University is going to probably win this game, and I think they'll just win this game in a close one.
Yeah,
And
for sure. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
it's because there's another game to be watching. Uh, the number one ranked quarterback versus the number two ranked quarterback. Number 9 LSU at number 6 Clemson.
Tigers versus Tigers. Now that's an interesting one because you talk about this matchup. You're for any of these quarterbacks. So so what I'm seeing here is that you have Caleb Kubiak going up against from Clemson going up against Garrett Nussheimer from LSU. That is going to be a fascinating matchup to watch up there in Death Valley for this Tigers versus Tigers matchup. And I'm going to have to be going for Clemson to win this game. They're going to go 2-0 against the SEC this season. I hope that Blake Weimer's not listening to me, but they're going to be going 2-0 against the SEC. They are going to win this game. I know I'm being a lot biased here, but people are not happy about me for what I'm against here for my predictions. But I just think Clemson is the better team than LSU. That's my opinion, but I think that's who I'm going to be. Whether you like it or not, whether you like it or not, but that's who I'm sticking with in this game.
Yeah, fair enough, Liz. We got a bit of time until some of
Yeah.
these big matchups come,
Yeah.
so we'll see. But certainly, we're starting early in terms of big matchups.
Yeah. Jack, before we get off,
Yeah.
what do you think of Carson Beck transferring from Georgia to Miami?
Carson Beck, well, it's interesting because Carson Beck, who won some games at Georgia last season, but he couldn't beat Notre Dame in the college football playoff last season. But Carson Beck to Miami is an interesting one because you now go for your last 2 seasons at Georgia, now you start at Miami. It's interesting because what he's going to be up against is his first game, his first start. Well, it's interesting because he's going to have to be taking on a Notre Dame team of C.J. Carr and Marcus Freeman's team, which took his team to the national championship game against Ohio State last season. But Carson Beck's in Miami. It's an interesting one, but interesting fact that Miami has never been to the college football playoff before. There are a lot of question marks out there to see if they can make it to the college football playoff at all this season or in the future. Well, only time will tell, but I highly doubt it. But if he stays healthy, then I think he'll have a great run, incredible season. But if he doesn't, then there's going to be a lot of question marks. So lots of optimistic to be excited for Carson Beck. But at the same time, you're just feeling pressure, and you got to stay healthy if you want to have a great year, and maybe try to be a Heisman Trophy candidate.
How do we feel about the Tide, Jackson? Obviously, Kalen DeBoer, maybe it wasn't totally surprising given there were some struggles being his first year replacing a legend, always tough to go in off of that. But
Right.
in terms of SEC teams, the Tide are going to be one to keep an eye on just kind of for that
Right.
make or break season for DeBoer, it seems like, right?
Yeah, and one of the players to keep your eye on the defense side of the ball is Ty Simpson. If he can be a difference maker in this team, then he is going to be tackling people and just really go after the quarterback and make tackles for against the opposing team offensively, and he can just do just that. And I think Ty Simpson can really be the difference maker for the Crimson Tide. For me.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I've wrote down a list, even though we're running short on time, that I think in college football, I hope Blake Weinberger is listening to this, because what I've written down is the young and
Jackson, I've been watching the new Netflix special
Yeah, we
on
should
college
mention that.
football.
Yeah,
I'm dialed in, baby. You bring
SEC
it.
SEC special.
oh,
Yeah,
I
It's
on
know, I
Netflix.
know.
fantastic.
Everybody's talking about it, and I want to tell
Shane
you.
Beamer loves South Carolina, man. I love it. So
Oh,
throw it.
I know you do. I
You
know.
bring it, Jackson. I'm ready for it.
I'm all in here for you, Blake.
All
So
right, come on.
starting off, the young and experienced new quarterbacks with both spoiler and contender potentials. Now, I've written down a complete list to see if those players can stay healthy and be a potential breakthrough makers and to become a difference. So, out of all those players on this list, I have a player from my former school that me and Blake Weinberger um, were cheering on against when we were all in college together. North Sellers of South Carolina, DJ
Oh, wait,
Lugway.
Jackson. That's all you need to know. That's who's gonna win the Heisman. So, spoiler alert, you just said the one guy that's gonna win the Heisman.
He's calling it now, and
North Sellers. He's gonna
it's an
win
early
it.
pick.
And
Get your bets
if
in now.
you
Yeah.
watch the Netflix special, he absolutely loves the Gamecocks, South Carolina, and it's specifically the coach. You heard it right there, Jack. Keep going, but that's who's going to win the Heisman. There you go.
I think I'm gonna be watching that tonight with my mom and dad tonight. So there you go. I think I might do just that. Anyway, so DJ Ugaway from Florida, you have John Meter from Oklahoma, Marcus Reed from Texas A&M, and Austin Simmons from Ole Miss. Now, if I had to pick one of those players who I think will be the difference maker, I think DJ Ugly from Florida will be the pick because Billy Napier and this team has dealt with a lot of drama last season with trying to with him on the hot seat, trying to fire him as a head coach, and now and now Steve Stricker, their athletic director, has really shots fired on him and just really give him so many question marks on his future. But now sides have came apart and changed their mind, and they stuck with them despite all that for a contract extension. So now into year two under Billy Napier for DJ Wagway, to me, he has got to stay healthy all year. And if he does just that, then I think like Lenore Sellers, he too can also be a Heisman Trophy contender and accept a invitation up to New York if it all goes as planned for him as a QB. But if it doesn't, then they're going to be following themselves in a 2 and 4 and 5 season. So it's going to go. So that's somewhere in the category you don't want to be in, and that's really and so to me that's really the area that you don't want to be on. But DJ Uruguay, the key here for me is to stay healthy and just try to not take too many turnovers and sacks, and if you do all that, then I think things will go well as planned for that team, and I think that for the Gators for Uruguay, and if he tries to make and if he gets and if he tries to win some games this season, but they do have a very tough schedule. But you can lose 2 games, but you can start 2-0 against one of those cupcake teams. But then if you lose to LSU and Miami, but then you can win the few games on the schedule other than Georgia on the schedule and Jacksonville. If you do just that, you'll do just fine. I think that DJ Uruguay can prove himself that they can knows what he can do at his best. But I think if he does all that, then I think the Gators and Uruguay will have a pretty good season.
Lots to keep an eye on for college football as we go forward here. First couple of games that we're looking forward to will be towards the end of August. So we'll definitely be talking more and more college football as we progress through this great month of August. But Jack, we should mention as well before we go that not necessarily basketball season right now in August, is it? But despite that, me and you went to a little bit of an open practice in Durham, North Carolina on Tuesday that was being held for your Duke Blue Devils, 25-26 season. where we had an open practice between an inter squad scrimmage, if you will, between all the new players that will be playing for Duke basketball. Some really exciting new players, and some big returning players as well. We had, Caleb Foster, Isaiah Evans, some of the big returners, some new players as well. The Boozer brothers, the two sons of former NBA player Carlos Boozer, will be lacing up for the Blue Devils this year as well. We had Sar, a big international recruit as well, who was playing for FC Barcelona basketball, is going to be playing for Duke next year as well. So, Jackson, yourself and me got a bit of a firsthand look at some of these players on Tuesday night. So, what were your reaction to attending that scrimmage and seeing these guys up close and personal for the first time?
Oh, it was very electric, and there was a DJ playing, and the fans were into it. The team and fans were into it. Coach Shire just was on the mic and just addressed the crowd about their upcoming team for the season, and they did a bunch of scrimmages and drills and shoot arounds and they did some like some cool things in there. It was a very special. You would have loved it, and they don't have this kind of stuff very often. But to me, it reminded me of an NFL training camp, and that's exactly what it felt like when you and me and Dad were there in person. And I got to tell you, it was quite the experience that I enjoyed and I loved. And this was by far, thank my dad for this, but this was by far the most experience I ever had with you and Dad together that I ever was a part of, and there was nothing like it. And I'm glad I was able to be a part of it, to see the players and the team that they had, and the players themselves, and really what I was more struck by is how I know that for the players that Isaiah Evans and Cam Boozer and Caleb Foster, who's still there, that of course you don't get Cooper Flag like you do anymore because he's playing freshly now in the pros and the next level. But I think that this will be Duke's best team that they had last year. And what I mean by that, they go international and sign different players, and so it's interesting because one of the players they signed, Blake, that I was really struck by is they signed a player from Alpharetta, Georgia. He played high school ball at Chattahoochee High School, named Cameron Sherfield. He's number 13, so that's really a player I'm keeping an eye on. And of course, the player from Nigeria, and of course the player that and of course one of the players that I and of course one of the players that I and of course one of the players I was struck by. One of the players, I'm sure you've heard of him, Blake, but one of the players is actually a local guy, not too far from where Uncle Mike lives and resides, and a player I'm sure we all have heard of him, Patrick Nuga Blobley. He actually played his high school ball in Manassas, Virginia, at a place called St. Paul VI. So that's really what's driven me out. And then of course you got some local guys from North Carolina, such as Isaiah Evans and Sherbert Wilkins, and of course Malik Brown. Well, if you don't know much about him, well, he played his high school ball in Culpeper, Virginia, at a place called Brew Ridge. So really, John Shire, who knows how to recruit players pretty much from anywhere around the country and around the world, getting a player from France and Nigeria and pretty much from all over, and he's just by far, unlike Mike Krzyzewski, John Shire filling his shoes for him for after all the years later that he did as a coach, that from being an assistant, that and a former player, that he can really do it all. And I think that John Shire does just that. And overall, my big takeaway from the practice and shoot around, that it was a very fun time. I really enjoyed being with you, Blake, and it was a really a experience and time with my dad and I together that I will never forget. And of course, at the end, they did the T-shirt shops, and I didn't want no part of it. They do it and of course they do it at Major League Baseball too.
Well, you don't want the T-shirts, Jack?
Well,
They
Not
must have been
Jackson. It
Pepsi
was not a
sponsored, baby.
T-shirt.
They must have been Pepsi T-shirts.
They were throwing out mini basketballs, Jack. There was no T-shirts. Okay.
yeah, there
Oh.
was actually, and I didn't want no
Okay.
part
All
of
right.
it, like they
All
do
right.
at MLB
I'm not going to
ballparks,
argue with
especially
you.
where Uncle Mike goes with Aunt Ward. But
But who doesn't love a good freebie, right?
Yeah, come on, Jack. You know what they say in Cobb County, Georgia? If it's free, it's for me, baby.
well, you got that right.
You know what they say in DC? If it's free, give me 3.
Well, you
Mm-hmm.
got that right. But
I'll take 5.
There you go.
but overall, but 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 look, at the same time, I didn't really want any of this. So I was just there to watch. I didn't want any
Right.
part of that because I didn't want any of those special merchandise stuff anyway. So to be a part of it. So that's really why I didn't really care and just want to be a part of it. That's all.
Fair enough. No, it was great to see an early look at some of these players, and obviously Duke had big players last year, Cooper Flag, Con
Yeah.
Knipple, they ended up being top picks, but they got a deep roster this year as well, and it's going to be a lot of competition for places. I think given how many new recruits they have, returning players and stuff like that. So we always keep one eye on Duke basketball here on Good Guy Sports, don't we? So.
We sure do.
Definitely great to keep an eye on that. And as well, we should shout out from Duke, Mr. Kevin and Miss Julie as well. We're always thinking of them as well from the Duke basketball perspective. So shout out to Kevin
Yeah.
and Julie. Um, anything else anybody wanted to raise today?
That you don't have too far to travel to see Con Canoopel. He's going to be in Charlotte this fall.
Man,
So too
hey,
is Sion James too. So
And the Hornets.
listen, we're having parades every day still. We haven't, we're still celebrating that preseason
Summer
or
League
the
champions.
yeah, that's right. We're still
you just
celebrating.
can't get over it, can you?
You know what they say, Jack, we'll take what we can get. And hey, guys, I do not fade that Netflix SEC special. That is super cool. You get to see a really cool insight into I don't know, man. It just makes you become a Lenora Sellers fan. Just yeah, just good guy. Just a good guy. Cool special.
Yeah,
What about
he's a great player. But I think I might like him too. So I can't wait to watch him and see his features in the film. Should be fun to watch.
Jack, it'll be the Gamecocks' second Heisman Trophy. A little trivia time for Jack. Can't stump this guy. Who was the only other player from the Gamecocks to win the Heisman?
Ooh, good
Oh,
question.
I think I know this answer. None other than George Rogers.
You're the man. That's why you're the
How
best.
did you know that?
Because I know for a fact and
What year was that?
remember seeing it in the stadium that one time when I was with my friends from Carolina
Okay.
Life at the game, and it had a display, and it had a picture, and it had a name shown in the stadium from the year and for that he won it, which was I believe in '69, and, and the player
I'm gonna
himself,
fact check that. I bet it's right.
and that's how I can tell. From remembering and seeing it when I was there last.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, 1980, Jack.
Bro,
1980.
yeah.
There we go.
It was
Thank you, Blake.
before our time, to
Yeah,
say the least.
right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
3 out of 4 of us were not born in 1980, but I'm not going to mention which three, Jack. We'll move on.
That's right. I did see that he did win it that year when I was watching the game in the stadium. Yeah. Oh yeah, Blake, you're right. I did notice that.
You're killing me.
Absolutely. That was Uncle Mike remembers that Heisman presentation like it was yesterday, don't you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we are just about out of time here on Good Guy Sports. We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? But we are getting closer and closer to an exciting fall. Plenty of football topics to be discussed. Tune in next week as well for my annual Premier League predictions. I know fans of Good Guy
Good call.
Sports look forward to that every year, don't they? We have the first game taking place on the 15th. So I will be giving my Premier League predictions a week from as we're recording this day on the 14th, the day before. So do stay tuned for that. I want to thank Jackson, Uncle Mike, and B.O. Lineberger for joining me today on Good Guys Sports. Everyone have a great weekend.
Yeah, last question from Mike. Yes or no answer so we can get off here quick. Will the Las Vegas Athletics ever actually end up in Las Vegas?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I've been seeing a lot of trouble with finances. We'll see. All right. Good call.
Stay tuned for that.
All right.
We'll keep you posted.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys. Bye now.
Thank you.